Hey,
Hey,
Amandine, how are you?
good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you
Yeah,
too. Oh, I'm very happy to be here.
yes, yes, likewise. Where are you based today?
I am, well, right now in my husband's music studio, but I'm right here in Central
Oh,
Oregon.
okay. Yeah, I was gonna say it's different backdrop than I was used to, but nice.
Yes, when I need, to have a quiet space to record a meditation or a sound
Mm.
bath, a music studio is definitely a very nice place to do that.
Yeah, yeah, I wish I had one of those. That'd be helpful for a lot of the audio things I do. But awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
And I welcome you as a new partner of our community. And yeah, really excited to introduce you to our little pocket of light. I know our conversation was one that resonated very deeply with me and just our vibrational match. So I'm excited to extend that out into the world and to, hopefully get more people to know about you and what you do. So um, this chat, as I'm sure you've seen with others, is a really informal, kind of easy exchange to give you the chance to express yourself and to share your story and what you do and why you do it. There's no real agenda and no real topics to cover, but just giving you space in that sense.
All right.
Um, Something I've been doing to kick things off um, more recently than I have with others is asking you to share just a few comments about, what brought you to Awakenpedia and why you resonated with this organization and mission.
All right. Well, thank you for that question. I do agree. When we talked, there was something definitely that happened energetically. I'm feel like we have the same background of a little bit corporate, where we did what we were supposed to do according to society, but something, at least for me, didn't resonate. I studied marketing, but because you have to find a job, all the because you have to, kind of voices around, and quickly realized that it was not for me. And I think I ended my career as a professional marketer in fighting climate change and realized that my heart was in doing things to help the world get better. And when my mission there stopped, I was like, I'm not going back to help people sell products that people don't need and that they're going to buy them with money that they don't have. I want to continue helping the world, but in a way that doesn't destroy my soul, because working on the climate change can definitely do that. And so I had a luckily for me, it happened at the beginning of the pandemic. So, like a lot of people, I had a lot of time to do introspection as to who I was, what I wanted to share with the world moving forward. And in that introspection, I realized that I had always been very connected to energy healing.
Mm.
My mom would bring us with my brother when we were kids. And the first time I was there, I was probably 4, but it was a revelation. I'm like, what? This is a thing? We can do that? And so I knew that there was something that resonated with me and energy healing. And I also, very early on in my life, connected with music. Whether we understand how sound healing works, we can all appreciate how within a span of few seconds, music can make us want to smile, jump, dance, or make us want to dwell in our, bad feelings.
Mm.
So there was a power in that. And through my journey, I started to realize that we could connect the two things, heal people, use energy healing through vibration of sound. And it was a beautiful, one of those aha moments. I was like, yes, this is how I'm going to help people now. So I became a yoga teacher, a meditation teacher. I validated my energy healing by becoming a Reiki master, and I became a professional sound healer. And I've been kind of, using all of those elements, blending them into a medium for healing others and helping them that works with who I am.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I want to get into that deeper too in terms of your story and
Mm-hmm.
a bit more in depth about your background in that transition from corporate into energy healing, and kind of just perhaps if you could touch on anything relevant in regards to how that transition actually happened, and why you sense it happened,
Mm.
just in a little more depth, because I think from my perspective, this is that's a state that so many people are in today, in terms of still kind of stuck in the corporate culture and knowing it's toxic perhaps, but not knowing exactly what to do or what else is possible. And so if you could speak to that transition a little bit more, we would appreciate it.
Yeah. So, well, as I was explaining, there is always something that felt like, "Oh, I have to go, I feel like I will have that universal, thought, that when Friday hit, Friday afternoon hit, I was like, finally, the rest of the week is for me. And it felt like such a waste of life, that from Monday to Friday, you have to, hold your breath basically, which is a very long time to hold your breath, and then only you would feel like, that sweet release for 2 days, and 3 nights, and it didn't feel right. But yes, there is definitely a big gap between realizing that and being able to move out of it. I think that it's for me, what really helped is during my training. I'm 500 meditation certified meditation coach, and what it meant is that for pretty much 2 years I was meditating an hour a day. And when you get into that deep of, a meditation practice, whether you want it or not, a lot of things happen within. You can no longer lie to yourself. I mean, you can, but then the practice has no merit, or, it's just like you're wasting your time being seated and still. So it really helps, quiet the ego, that fear voice of like, no, you have to listen to, no, you have to get back. Yeah, but what about the money? You tune it out. You're like, thank you, my ego. You're a very useful tool. I love you, but you're not me. You're not the driver. You're going to get where you belong, in the back seat. I will listen to you occasionally, but right now we're going to let the soul sing. And through hours, of letting my soul take the space that it's supposed to take, certain things became clear. Obviously you don't have that, that noise, and you can really tap into, okay, who I am, what am I wanting to do. And the more I would let that kind of energy and that kind of circuit to get created within my mind, the more going back to, okay, maybe I should, go back to the corporate, was like, no, you're not going to do that to yourself. This is just not possible. So then it became a moment of leap of faith. um I'm not one of those who was like, you know what, I have no money, it's okay, I'll figure it out. I did that once when I moved to the US, but that's another story. But I just figured out, with my husband, a way for us, for me to pay, to scale down the spendings, find a way to have a little bit of money, not a lot, because I didn't need the overwhelming amount of money to that I used to need to then go shopping, to, okay, now, it's my time, I'm going to spend like X amount of money on shopping and do all of those expensing things that you just do to counterbalance the bad week you had. And I was like, no, you're doing what you like, you're really fulfilling your heart, so you can scale down on the spending. And once that kind of part, that for me is still important, the material part was covered, it gave me all the time for me to be able to start helping people through, a donation or volunteering, and just reconnect to that practice that really, resonated in my heart. And then it was just a leap of faith of like, okay, you're gonna make it no matter how long it takes. You have the basics covered, so for the rest, for the little plus in life, materially speaking, it will have to come from, helping others. It's not the main goal anymore. The main goal is to really help others get enlightened, and through, the work getting bigger and bigger, the universe will provide. But yeah, there was that leap of faith that I had to step into.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. That it strikes a lot of nerves within me, and I'm sure for so many others. But um, it, I think it's a really interesting takeaway as well, an observation, which is that by connecting more with your authentic, essential self, um, it allowed you to kind of, and just by embodying some spiritual practice with meditation and coming into awareness of the ego voice in your head and being able to separate that from your true self, and then being able to minimize the excess desires that were prompting you to, spend frivolously or just out of control and just mindlessly. It gave you a bit more control and agency in that sense, it seems, so that you could actually consciously scale back, embrace more of a minimalist lifestyle, which allowed you to realize that, you know, embracing this lifestyle and bridging the gap between the material and spiritual worlds wasn't as drastic perhaps as once was seen in the eyes of the ego. It still required, of course, that leap of faith, but you realize that when God has your back, the universe has your back, it's less scary, right? And you realize that that it's something that you have to do as well, feeling that pull. So
Yeah.
yeah, amazing.
It's
Okay,
kind of like
so
when you step on stage. Oh,
no,
sorry.
no.
The moment before you go on stage, there is all that stress, that fear. And once you're on stage and you start to do well, like I said, I'm a musician, so when I would start to sing, or that stress goes away, you're in the movement, you're in the action, and you're starting to realize, like, why was I that stressed? No, things are flowing now. This is where you're supposed to be. Own it. And that, yeah, that's the same thing. It's, you're not on stage, but there is that same, like, oh my God, I'm about to show myself to the world or to that person, and it's like facing that fear and be like, hey, we're good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great analogy, and one sometimes I use as well to point to the same takeaway. There is when I skydived, so much of my fear, actually the entirety of my fear, was the anticipation leading up to the actual jumping out of the plane. It was all in my mind, all something I was creating within me as an illusion. It was made up. It was just me playing make believe, creating all these situations and scenarios in my head. And as soon as I actually did the act that, what I was scared of, I had the most blissful, euphoric feeling, and all the fear dissipated away. There was no fear at all. And I thought that was a really important life lesson that applies so much to this awakening journey, because this leap of faith that so much of us feel, right, that prevents us from living authentically, when it's taken, we realize that there is no more fear, because in taking the leap of faith, we realize that we're not actually falling, because there is no ground, so we're flying. And so now that's the most liberating feeling, right? Where you take the leap of faith and you realize that you can't get hurt, there's nothing to hurt, and so you can now just enjoy in that liberated state and live in alignment with Dharma, working through your karma, and yeah, just a really empowering state to
Yeah.
exist and live from.
Especially in my story, I was somebody, I'm the eldest in the family, so there was always the weight of like taking care of others before yourself, making sure everybody is fine, and you always have that sense of responsibility, and that translated into me not really tapping into myself or having a lot of lack of self-esteem or self-confidence. It was just like, no, you have to do things. And being able to face yourself when you have a background of not, having confidence or anything that you need to become an entrepreneur, anything you need to do the jump, and hope you will indeed fly, was even more daunting. It's a different path, when you're like, no, I'm confident, no, I'm just going to do it because I'm good, and you're like, no, I might, you still have that voice being like, yeah, but do you really deserve to do this? And it's, yeah, learning to really be in control of yourself with those, voice that resonate from so deep within, and being able to say, you have to go to a place you've never been before. Maybe we're going to have to fake it at first, to be self-confident,
Mm.
but we have to get there one way or another. And it's so magical when you're finally able to say, because you've decided to take, that jump and be in alignment with who you are, and you start to feel like, oh my God, I've let go of this. No, I am confident. I know my self-worth. I'm not more nor less than any other, beautiful light that is around this world. And once I had discovered that, and I had that freedom, that's really what it is. It is a freedom to realize, oh, I am worthy of whatever my heart is telling me that I should do. And so for me, it was clear, I need to help others locate their blockages, whether they're from very far away or for recent, whatever it is. When they need to figure out, those blockages, and learn to let go of them, learn to tune them out. And it's been an incredible thing to do with others. Like, okay, that aha moment you see in the people's eyes as you're helping them, and they're like, okay, something just shifted. And it's like, okay, I've not just helped myself, I'm helping you now. And that's the most amazing thing in that alignment, and in that jumping and taking that leap of faith.
Yeah, the ability to um, help others and facilitate the healing of others' journeys, and really just I see it as a giving back, and
Mm,
also a fulfilling of our divine function, which is to extend love and to create in that way.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, really beautiful. So, how long ago was this transition again? Just remind me of like when
So
this happened.
I've done energy healing for since I was a teenager, and I've created music since also I was a teenager. I realized that my whole life I've been interested in three things: energy healing, music, and spirituality. Those were my things, and I did, as I said, I was not self-confident to jump into it professionally, but it was, what made me
Yeah,
feel alive. And through the beginning of the pandemic, when
yeah,
the universe brought to me all those ways to now learn, not, in a very far country, but from the comfort of our home. Um, that's when things started to, I didn't know what I was doing at the time. Initially, you would ask me, in 2019, what you're going to do. I'm going to be a yoga teacher. I had still, a lot of work to do to realize, I don't know where I'm going, but I know that this feels right. And through stages of like, oh, but I prefer meditation. Yes, because it's connected to the mind, to the spiritual, and then that's through step after step that I started to realize that combination. And by the end of 2020, I had discovered sound healing. And so 2021 and 2022, in 2023, I just jumped, all in, and started to offer, content to help others. And when I found Awakenpedia, I I was like, okay, I've been asking lately, the universe to help me find, new communities that are aligned with that principle of wanting to share the light. And I've talked with so many people where you're like, oh, I can feel like money is a big thing for you. And so you was like, we understand that money is important, but I don't like that, especially in a wellness or a holistic approach. This is on the forefront stage. So I really enjoy when, we started to talk, and you were like, this is not where we're at. We're in the business of helping others. And I was like, okay, this is more my jam, where we can craft beautiful, courses or a live session, and all those different mediums to help others. And yeah, if we're doing a good job, yeah, the money will come,
yeah.
but it's all about seeing those smiles, seeing those eyes lighting up, seeing those, feeling those weights that people have on their chests go away. You can almost see it, it's all energetical, but you can almost see in a person when it happens. So yeah, when we connected, and I felt like this was exactly what Awakenpedia was about. I was like, okay, and it's been amazing to, ask the universe for guidance to find new people to work with, and then, have those beautiful moments of like, okay, I think the universe just answered. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for saying all of that, and for seeing uh, the intention behind this organization and the mission. Um, you know, the purpose is to facilitate the awakening of humanity, and by doing that, we know, that is in correlation with the healing of humanity. And if that happens successfully, all of the material byproducts will be part of it. And it's just a reminder of where our primary focus is and what's secondary,
Yeah.
right? And
And
keeping,
where to meet people at too.
yeah.
I had a teacher that would always, he was trained in a very traditional way in India, and so I loved his teaching, but you could tell like we're not in the same realm. Um, when you do an hour meditation with like very traditional ways to do the awakening, it's very different than when you come to people who are not trying to become certified or who do not have a long practice. And it's also interesting to be able to say, okay, we're not going to do mantra singing for 45 minutes nonstop. We're going to come where you're at, and slowly and surely we're going to help you. Well, tune out the fears, tune out the ego, and let your soul sing no matter where you're at. I love that, I've had so many situations where I've seen people start to feel a shift after. Only 10 minutes. So I love that. And I wanted to make sure that, whoever is watching understands that no matter where you are in your journey, there is a way to find the light and to listen to your heart and to connect to your higher self. You don't have to spend, years, meditating all day long. Not all of us are supposed to be monks.
Right, right. Good point and very true. Um, Ultimately, enlightenment happens here and now, right? So it is always accessible to us. The awakened state of being is one that is accessed through this dimension of nothingness, nowhereness, no oneness, and
Yes.
it's just here and now. So, all right, let's transition into your specific offerings now.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to I start with your journey because I know that all feeds into, the actual services, offerings, packages that you provide. And you're someone who's unique because you are both facilitating the healing of individuals, but also the businesses of the healers who are facilitating the healing. As someone who focuses on vibrational sound therapy, Reiki, meditation, and conscious entrepreneurship. So, can you walk us through, your kind of the suite of offerings you have, how they kind of work together, if they do, and yeah, how you kind of package them too?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. So, like you said, yes, I have two very different type of offerings. As I said, I studied marketing, so it's something that is still a part. Sorry for that.
It's
It's like,
something that
what's happening?
you gotta watch with your hands. They create these bubbles now.
Um, so on the one hand, I'm offering a package where I mix guided meditation. Um, I have um sort of a medium. I've through my work with others, I started to realize that I was, and now I'm getting to a phase where I'm, presenting myself as is and owning that part of me. So when I do a guided meditation, there is often something that is channeling, like you have to use this word or you have to, work on this specific part. So there is something very deeper than just a regular guided meditation that happens on my one-on-ones. And once I get people to that very peaceful, relaxed phase, where I know the healing can finally take place. That's where I usually use sound healing and crystal bowls to help really anchor the change, the intentions that have been set during our practice. And I offer either one-on-ones very simply, or I offer, long-term awakening journey let's just call it like this, where we work, each session on every chakra and everything related to that chakra, so that at the end of, the work that we do, we know that there has been a full work on releasing everything that is no longer serving people, letting go of all that noise from the past or all that anxiety in regards to the future. And like you were just saying, allow ourselves to be mindful of the moment present, allowing ourselves to listen to our body and seeing where there is, disharmony, and allowing it with, it's very important for me, with gratefulness toward that pain. That pain had a purpose at some point. So for me, it's kind of, I don't remember her name. She was a huge Japanese woman for minimalism. She would always say, if it doesn't spark joy, let go of it, but you think it. And that's exactly how I like to let go, even of the worst things that are in us. Thank it for the work is done, and release it with love to the universe to be composted where it needs to be. So that's one of my practice. And then um, I didn't want to let go of marketing because it's a tool, right? So a lot of companies use it for bad, but it can also be a really good tool for good. And this is why I decided to continue to help people who kind of like are kind of like me, sorry, trying to help the world, elevate their vibration. But not everyone who works in this has a background in that field and over 15 years of experience. So I help people, whether it's finding the brand, finding the tools, creating their brand, and how to sustain it in an ethical way.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's a really robust and powerful offer you have to be able to combine, you know, modalities and focuses, and to be able to bridge these two worlds in that way of honoring and observing and not renouncing the material world, but
Mhm.
to bring love into it so that we can actually do from a more awakened state of consciousness. And frankly, that's how I see humanity evolving in terms of where we're going as a species, the nature of organization. Yeah. Um, I see this as very much have clear vision about the trajectory of where we're headed, presuming we don't destroy ourselves. But it's very necessary to have people like yourself who are able, to have one foot in each dimension, to be able to serve as that anchor and that link to usher us into the next phase of being human. So I
I
thank you
think that's,
for that.
sorry. Yeah, and I mean, if just can add, once you start to feel, what it means to vibrate at higher energies, and start to get to that enlightened state, you understand why monks go in caves for months on end. You start to understand what they mean by, like, oh, you little brothers and little sisters, you're making too much noise out of nothing. I understand that, um but I also appreciate that we're in a material world, and so we have to play with the physical world, as long as we don't let it poison us.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's, for me, the whole thing is, yeah, you can play, you can put makeup if that makes you, as a woman, you can, but don't feel like you're not worthy if you don't use those X, Y, and Z. It should just be
Yes.
playful.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's when you identify, when you mistakenly identify with the world and the objects of world, whatever it may be, a
Hmm.
job, a person, you know, your image. That's when you suffer, right? And so Ram Dass focuses on this. He did, is a large part of his kind of offering I see to the world, was an attempt to balance these two dimensions of being and human, and not getting lost in either of them. So walking this tightrope of life and balancing them, living in the world but knowing you're not of it. And
Yes.
that's often one of the greatest challenges, because we forget, but then we remember, and then we forget, and then we remember.
I had a teacher
So,
who would tell us often, like, okay, we're going to start the session, be a monkey. And for 10 minutes, we all were, doing the monkey. And it was really hard at first because we're not used to being playful like this.
mm,
But after 5 or 10 minutes of being completely nonsensical, you realize, like, hey, do I feel lighter? Kinda, yes. All right, I'm ready to meditate, or I'm, but it really helps you disconnect with that image that we have of ourselves.
Mm.
And I am hoping that, because you're starting to do that and separate yourself, when you get into sensitive situation in regards to your own issues, you have that experience of separating, so you're able to be like, okay, I know better. I know that this is a little bit silly, but it is a hard, stage to get to. I recognize, but it's so rewarding when you get to that place where you're like, oh, you don't own me anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And, the deeper you go on the awakening journey and this healing journey, um, the more you come into the knowingness that this is all play, right? As you were saying. And um, as soon as you start to take it seriously, it's evidence that you've slipped back into illusion of mind, that you're now back in that forgetful state, and you're back in the ego, and therefore you will likely start suffering
Yeah,
in some form again, until you remember and you come back and you're like, oh yeah, that's right. This is play. Let's not take it seriously. But only when you know it's play can you do it in a loving way and not from fear. And that's when you're able to create beautiful things. And it's such an encouraging time of existence because we're witnessing so many more people coming into that knowingness and coming back to play and having these really peak suffering moments, which we call dark nights of the soul, right? Experiencing ego death, which is launching them into the spiritual dimension so that they can actually start embracing this healing work and start playing again. And it's the journey, but
it is.
yeah, awesome. Okay, well, another question, and I like to kind of wrap things up with this one, is if you have any type of advice or guidance or wisdom that you would like to share, just anything from your heart, in terms of what you feel would be helpful to those on the path.
There's so much that I want to share. I actually even started a podcast because I had so much to share. The one thing that I will say is that no, if you're feeling, take the time, even 5 minutes a day. You don't have to start thinking that you need to sit down for 20 minutes. If it doesn't align with you, don't do it. But if it aligns with you, do it by journaling, by meditating, even a few minutes every day. Just connect with yourself, connect with the moment. Do simple mindfulness exercise, like really looking at everything you do when you're washing the dishes. If you're not feeling like you can let some of your time for something as meditation, do it while doing something useful in your home, but really try to connect with your breath, with your heart, and do not be serious about it. Be serious in trying to connect with your heart, but smile when you do it, and try to bring playfulness in your day to day, and try to separate yourself from the thoughts and the emotion that you're feeling sometimes. And if you feel like you need to go deeper, well, there is a wonderful series of healers and a Wikipedia, and I highly recommend that you come and check us out.
Yes, thank you. And great advice. So true, because as you were saying earlier, that so often people believe or have this type of assumption that they have to go off and meditate for, a decade and live in the Himalayan caves and never interact in the world. Um, that prevents a lot of people from actually taking those first steps into embracing truth in this journey. And so, to your suggestion, which is so valuable, micro steps, micro
Yeah.
meditation, use the daily life as the meditation, the opportunity to embrace the meditative state. When you're washing the dishes, can you pay attention to actually dishwashing?
Yeah.
Can you
Thich
actually
Nhat
give
Hanh
it?
was the one that said that. Sorry,
Yeah.
I took that from him, and it was, I usually hated doing it, and all of a sudden doing it in a mindful way, I connected with that moment, you know.
Yeah.
Never in my wildest dream would have said to, you know, a younger version of me, like, hey, one day you're going to do the dishes. It's going to be the best experience ever. But it really is, by being mindful of feeling the water on your fingers, the cold, how, you know, like the listening to the sound, it becomes a whole different experience. And we're talking about the dishes. We could talk about anything
Anything,
else.
anything, right? Yeah, and that's where when I was at my 10-day silent retreat in at Damasuka in the Ozark Mountains, yogi jobs were a very integral part of that retreat experience, which in mine was the dishwasher, and the whole point of it was to exactly that. It was as important as from a meditation standpoint as when we were in the Dhamma hall and in a sitting meditation, because meditation doesn't stop once you get off the cushion, right? You carry it with you in life, and that's when you're able to integrate it into everything, so that now you can literally live from peace instead
Yes.
of just being in peace or attempting to for 30 minutes a day or whatever it is when you're sitting.
Yeah.
So yeah, really good advice, really good advice. um, well, look, I think this is a good place to wrap up here. Amandine, thank you so much for being here and for, um, bestowing your faith in me and this organization, the mission. I'm really looking forward to working with you, co-creating together, serving the world, and extending the light that we know we are into all corners of this globe. So thank you
Thank
very much.
you.
And
Thank you for all the work that you've been doing and you're doing. And yes, I'm very excited to embark on this journey with you and everybody and create partnership. Alone we go fast, but together we go far. And so I'm here to go far with like-minded, wonderful souls like you and all the other holistic healers. So, and thank you to everybody who's been listening. If anybody took away something out of today, that's a win. And careful with the thumbs. And and until next time.
yeah, beautiful. And everyone who tuned in, and this will be posted in your partner profile, but can learn more about Amandine and her partner profile in our member forum. Um, a deeper bio about her, direct booking links, discounts, everything about her. So feel free to check it out there. But
Thanks, Cameron.
till then,
Have a
thank
wonderful
you.
day.
Bye bye.
Bye.